The station was quiet in a way that made old soldiers uneasy. It floated above a blue-gray planet at the edge of human space, a repair and relay station that most ships ignored unless they were desperate or broken. The corridors were clean but empty. The lights were always a little dim to save power. Only a few hundred people lived there, and most of them worked different shifts, rarely meeting each other. Jonah Reeve liked it that way. He lived alone in a small corner module, far from the docking rings and command decks. After the war, quiet felt safer than crowds. Machines made sense. People did not. Jonah was a former infantry soldier, discharged after the First Contact War ended. Humanity had survived, but only just. Too many names were carved into metal walls back on Earth. Too many memories stayed awake at night. So Jonah fixed things. When relays failed, he repaired them. When doors jammed, he forced them open. When systems broke, he listened until they told him what was wrong. Machines never lied. Machines never begged. That night, he was finishing a long shift, recalibrating a power conduit when his wrist unit chimed. The sound echoed too loudly in the silence. He frowned. No one contacted him this late. The station was under partial lockdown because of rising tension with nearby alien systems. Non-essential movement was restricted. Visitors were not allowed. The chime came again. "Maintenance Reeve," Jonah said, tired but alert. No response. Instead, the chime changed tone, a door request from his personal module. Jonah stopped walking. That made no sense. He had not ordered anything. He had no friends who would visit unannounced, and the station logs should have blocked all access. His hand moved without thought, checking the small emergency blade at his belt. Old habits never fully died. He turned and headed back through the corridor, boots quiet against the metal floor. The lights flickered once as the station adjusted power loads. When he reached his door, the request icon glowed soft white. Someone was standing outside. Jonah hesitated. During the war, hesitation got people killed. After the war, it sometimes kept them alive. He placed his palm on the panel and opened the door. She stood there, tall and slender, her skin a smooth pale silver that reflected the corridor lights. Her eyes were large and dark, with a faint inner glow that marked her species. She wore a long ceremonial robe woven with symbols Jonah recognized from old briefing files. An Aurelian, high caste if the markings were correct. His breath caught. The Aurelians were not allies. They were not enemies either. They were something worse. Powerful, distant, and always watching. Their fleets controlled half the nearby trade routes. Their leaders spoke of balance and order while quietly pushing weaker species into obedience. No Aurelian should be here. Not on a human station. Not alone. Before Jonah could speak, she reached up and loosened the clasp at her throat. The robe slid from her shoulders and fell to the floor. Jonah stiffened, his body reacting before his mind did. He took a step back, not forward. She was not naked in the human sense. Beneath the robe, she wore a simple inner garment, plain and unadorned. But among Aurelians, removing the outer robe was not casual. It was a public act, a dangerous one. Her voice was calm but strained. "I am not leaving tonight." The words were clear, perfect human standard. Jonah stared at her, heart pounding. "You should put that back on," he said slowly. "Whatever this is, you shouldn't be here." She did not move. "If I leave," she said, "I will be taken. If I am taken, I will be silenced. If I am silenced, many will die." Jonah glanced down the corridor, empty, no alarms yet. "You need to explain," he said. "Now." She stepped forward just one step, stopping at the threshold. "My name is Celira," she said. "I am a truth-bearer of the Aurelian conquered." Jonah's stomach tightened. Truth-bearers were rare. Political observers, intelligence gatherers, and judges wrapped into one. Wherever they went, change followed, often violent change. "You picked the wrong door," Jonah said. "No," Celira replied. "I picked the only one that would open." Jonah laughed once, short and humorless. "You don't know me." "I know enough," she said. You defended civilians during the siege of Karin Station. You disobeyed orders to withdraw. Jonah went very still. That file is sealed. She tilted her head. Not to me. He closed the door partway, leaving only a narrow gap. You need to leave, he said again. If station security finds you here, they will, Celira said. Soon. As if summoned by her words, a distant hum passed through the station. The lights dimmed slightly. Jonah felt it through the floor, through the walls, ships entering orbit. Why me? Jonah asked quietly. Because humans protect those who choose them, she said, even when it costs them. Jonah thought of burning skies, of screaming comms, of holding a barricade with shaking hands because someone else was behind him and afraid. That's not a rule, he said. It is, she replied. Your kind just does not write it down. A sharp tone echoed through the corridor. Not an alarm yet, a warning. Jonah swore under his breath. Inside, he said. Celira stepped forward immediately, relief flickering across her face. Jonah closed the door and sealed it manually, overriding the station's system. The locks clamped shut with a heavy sound. For a moment they just stood there. His small living space felt even smaller now. A table, a chair, a bunk, and walls lined with tools and spare parts. Celira looked around, curious but focused. You are calm, she said. I'm not, Jonah replied. I'm just used to fear. The station's internal channel crackled to life, then cut off. Jamming. Jonah moved to his console and pulled up external sensors. 3 unknown ships had arrived, their hull shapes angular and unfamiliar. Not Aurelian military, but close enough. Extraction vessels. They're here for you, Jonah said. Yes. What did you do? I listened, Celira said, and I refused to stay silent. Jonah shook his head. That gets people killed. She met his eyes. So does silence. Another vibration ran through the station as docking clamps engaged somewhere far above. Security would be moving now, and if they found her in his room, there would be questions. Questions Jonah could not answer without dying or worse. He paced once, then stopped. How long can you stay hidden? He asked. Not long, Celira said. My presence is detectable to my people's sensors. Jonah exhaled slowly. Then we don't hide, he said. She blinked. What? We move, Jonah continued. There are maintenance tunnels, old sections no one watches anymore. If they think you're still searching for shelter, we can buy time. Why are you helping me? She asked softly. Jonah paused. He thought of a child crying in a dark corridor years ago. Of a hand gripping his armor. Of choosing to stay when every order said run. Because you knocked, he said, and because I opened the door. A faint glow spread through Celira's eyes. Not fear, not hope, respect. The station lights flared suddenly as a full alert finally triggered. A calm, artificial voice announced a security breach and instructed all personnel to remain in place. Jonah grabbed a tool pack and handed Celira a small comm unit. Stay close, he said. Do exactly what I say. She nodded without hesitation. As they slipped into the maintenance hatch behind his bunk, Jonah knew one thing with absolute clarity. This night would not end quietly, and whatever happened next, the galaxy was about to learn something it had forgotten. Humans did not abandon those who chose to stay. The maintenance tunnel was narrow, dark, and smelled of metal and old coolant. Jonah moved first, pulling himself along the ladder with practiced ease. Celira followed, her movements careful but fast. The hatch sealed behind them, cutting off the main corridor lights and leaving only Jonah's wrist lamp to guide the way. Above them, the station's alert continued to echo through distant speakers. Security teams would already be spreading out, following protocols written for human intruders, not alien truth-bearers. Jonah led them through a maze of old passages. These tunnels had been built during the station's first construction phase, before upgrades and automation. Most were no longer mapped in the main system. Jonah had worked on them years ago, patching leaks no one else bothered to fix. This way, he said quietly. Celira said nothing. She watched him closely, memorizing his movements, his decisions. Humans fascinated her, especially under pressure. They became sharper, more focused, almost more alive. They reached a junction where 3 tunnels split. Jonah paused and listened. Faint vibrations traveled through the walls, boots, heavy ones. "Security," he murmured. He tapped a panel on the wall, removed its cover, and crossed 2 cables with a small tool. The lights ahead flickered, then went out completely. A moment later, raised voices echoed from the tunnel to their left. Confused, disoriented, Jonah did not smile. He was already moving again. They climbed down another ladder into a wider service chamber. Old crates were stacked against one wall, covered in dust. A long-dead repair drone lay on its side like a forgotten animal. "This area is shielded," Jonah said. "Sensors won't read clearly," Celira finally spoke. "You planned this kind of escape before." "Not this," Jonah replied, "but close enough." He checked the comm unit he had given her. Static filled the channel. Jamming was now complete. "They're isolating the station," Jonah said. "That means this isn't just about you. They don't want witnesses." Celira folded her hands, a gesture of control in her culture. "Then my presence here has already changed the outcome." Jonah glanced at her. "You still haven't told me what you uncovered," she hesitated. For an Aurelian truth-bearer, hesitation meant danger. "My people," she said slowly, "have decided humanity is inefficient." Jonah stopped walking. "That's a big word," he said. "Usually means something worse." "They believe humans create instability," Celira continued. "You resist integration. You form emotional bonds that override logic. You fight even when victory is unlikely." "Sounds like survival," Jonah said. "To the conquered," she replied, "it sounds like a flaw." They reached a sealed door marked with faded warning symbols. Jonah keyed in an old override code. The door slid open with a groan. Inside was a control room, abandoned but functional. Old displays blinked to life as Jonah powered them up. Celira watched him work. "They plan to reduce human influence quietly," she said. "Economic pressure, proxy conflicts, forced treaties, and if that failed, removal." Jonah clenched his jaw. "Genocide?" he asked. "Not openly," Celira said. "Never openly. They prefer cleaner words." Jonah leaned against the console, breathing slowly. Anger was dangerous. He had learned that long ago. "And you," he said, "you decided to run." "I decided to warn you," she corrected. "I brought evidence, records, projections, names. Why not go to human command?" "They would not believe me in time," she said, "and my own people would intercept any official channel." Jonah looked at the displays. External sensors flickered in and out. More ships were arriving. "They know you're here," he said. "Yes. And now they know I'm helping you." "Yes," he nodded once, decision made. "We need to get a message out," Jonah said. "One clean burst, something they can't ignore." Celira stepped closer. "My data will convince them, but only if I am alive." Jonah met her gaze. "Then we make sure you stay that way." A sudden impact rocked the station. Not a weapon strike, a docking clamp locking hard. "They're boarding," Jonah said. The control room door shook as something heavy hit it from the other side. Jonah moved fast. He pulled a portable power cell from a crate and slammed it into an auxiliary port. The displays flared brighter. "I can reroute the station's emergency beacon," he said. "It's old, analog, hard to jam completely." "Do it," Celira said. The door buckled inward. Jonah typed rapidly, fingers flying over the console. Lines of code scrolled past. He linked the beacon to the external array, boosting its range beyond safety limits. "Once this goes out," he said, "they'll know exactly where we are." "They already do," Celira replied. The door gave way with a scream of metal. Armed figures poured into the room. Not station security. Alien commandos. They were tall, armored, their weapons humming with contained energy. Their helmets glowed with targeting lights. Jonah stepped in front of Celira without thinking. A voice echoed from one of the commandos, translated instantly. "Step aside, human." "No," Jonah said. You are interfering with internal conquered matters. Not anymore, Jonah replied. You brought it to my door. The commandos raised their weapons. Salira moved then, stepping beside Jonah. I am Salira of the Truth Bearers, she said, her voice clear and strong. By conquered law, you have no authority over me. The lead commando hesitated. Just for a second. That second was enough. Jonah slammed his hand down on the console. The beacon activated. A pulse of raw signal blasted into space, carrying compressed data and a simple message tag used only in extreme emergencies. Human colonies, human fleets, human command. The room shook as the commandos fired. Jonah grabbed Salira and pulled her down behind the console. Energy scorched the wall above their heads. Jonah returned fire with a maintenance tool modified to overload power cells. One commando fell, armor sparking, but there were too many. Run, Jonah shouted. They slipped through a side hatch as the room filled with smoke. Jonah sealed the door behind them and triggered a manual overload. The control room exploded seconds later, cutting off pursuit. They ran, through tunnels, down ladders, across narrow bridges over open shafts. Behind them, the station echoed with alarms and angry voices. Finally, they reached a small hangar bay rarely used anymore. A single old shuttle sat inside, its hull scarred but intact. Jonah rushed to the controls. This thing still flies, he said. Barely. Salira looked at him. If we leave, they will destroy the station. Jonah paused. How many people live here, she asked. A few hundred, Jonah said, mostly civilians. Salira closed her eyes briefly. Then I will not run, she said. Jonah stared at her. That's not an option. It is, she replied. If I surrender, they may spare the station. And kill you, Jonah said. Yes. No, Jonah said again, louder this time. Salira looked at him with something like sadness. You do not understand what you are risking. I understand exactly, Jonah said. I've seen what happens when we decide some lives are easier to lose. The hangar lights flickered, external weapons charged. Then Jonah's comm crackled. A human voice broke through the static. Unknown station, this is Patrol Ship Resolute. We received your beacon. Jonah laughed, breathless. Resolute, this is Jonah Reeve, he said. We have a truth bearer under threat. Repeat, alien forces are boarding. There was a pause, then copy that, the voice said. Hold on. Moments later, the station shook as something massive exited warp nearby. Salira opened her eyes. What is that? She asked. Jonah smiled grimly. That, he said, is why my people are still here. Outside the viewport, human ships emerged from the dark. Not many, but enough. The alien command ships hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty rippled through their formation. Salira watched, her expression unreadable. You came for me, she said softly. No, Jonah replied. We came because someone asked for help. As weapons powered down and channels opened for negotiation, Salira understood something that her people had never fully grasped. Humans did not act because of orders alone. They acted because they chose to. And that choice made them dangerous. The human ships did not fire. They did not rush forward or form an aggressive line. Instead, they spread out slowly, taking positions that protected the station without directly threatening the alien fleet. Their movements were calm, deliberate, and careful. That alone unsettled the Aurelians. Jonah stood in the hangar beside Salira, watching the scene through the wide viewport. His hands were still shaking from adrenaline, but his mind was clear. Years ago, he would have expected explosions by now. Orders shouted. Missiles launched. Instead, human ships waited. Why are they not attacking? Salira asked quietly. Because we don't need to, Jonah replied. Not yet. A channel opened across all frequencies. The signal carried authority, not anger. This is Admiral Hayes of the United Human Fleet, the voice said. Alien vessels currently surrounding Outpost Theta 7. Identify yourselves and state your intent. The alien command ship responded after a long pause. Its tone was cold and precise. This station shelters a fugitive belonging to the Aurelian Concord. Hand her over and no further action will be taken." Jonah felt Salira tense beside him. Admiral Hayes replied calmly, "The individual you are referring to entered this station freely and requested protection. She is not a prisoner here." "That is irrelevant," the alien voice said. "She is ours." Jonah leaned closer to the console and activated a private channel. "They're testing us," he said, "seeing if we'll trade you to avoid trouble." Salira nodded. "That is how my people resolve most conflicts." "Well," Jonah said, "they're about to be disappointed." Admiral Hayes' voice returned, steady and firm. "Human law is simple," she said. "If someone asks for help and we choose to give it, that choice matters. We will not surrender her." Silence followed. Then a subtle shift. Alien ships adjusted position. Weapon systems charged, but not fully. A threat, not yet an attack. Salira looked at Jonah. "This may still end in violence." "Maybe," Jonah said, "but not the kind they expect." He turned to the shuttle console and pulled up the data Salira had given him earlier. Files upon files. Plans, projections, secret agreements. Everything the Conquered had hidden behind polite words. "Admiral," Jonah said over the channel, "we have proof of hostile intent. Not just against us, but against multiple species." "Send it," Hayes replied instantly. Jonah did. Across human networks the truth spread fast, faster than any missile, faster than fear. On alien channels confusion followed. Orders contradicted each other. Smaller allied species listening in began to ask questions the Conquered did not want to answer. Salira watched the data leave the station, her expression calm but heavy. "My life may not matter now," she said, "but the truth does." Jonah looked at her. "Your life matters too." Outside, one alien ship broke formation and pulled back slightly. Another followed. "They are losing control," Salira said softly. "They're losing the story," Jonah corrected. "That's worse for them." Admiral Hayes spoke again, this time to the wider galaxy. "Any further hostile action against this station will be considered an act of war," she said. "Not because we seek conflict, but because we will not accept quiet extermination." The words carried weight. Not loud, not dramatic, honest. The alien flagship hesitated. Then slowly its weapons powered down. One by one the other alien ships followed. Jonah exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. "It's over," he asked. "For tonight," Hayes replied. "But this will not be forgotten." The channel closed. In the hangar, emergency lights returned to normal. The station's alarms fell silent. Somewhere far above, civilians stepped out of hiding, unsure if they were safe yet. Salira closed her eyes. "They will brand me a traitor," she said. "If I return, I will not survive." Jonah nodded. "Then you don't return." She opened her eyes. "Your people will shelter me," Jonah smiled slightly. "You already know the answer." Days passed. The station became the center of galactic attention. Diplomats arrived, observers. Ships from species that had once bowed quietly to the Conquered now hovered nearby, listening carefully to human words. Jonah was questioned many times about the beacon, about his choices, about why he acted alone. He answered simply. "She knocked. I opened the door." Salira was given temporary asylum under human protection. She spoke openly now, not as a fugitive but as a witness. Her testimony shook old alliances and broke long-standing lies. Some called her dangerous, others called her brave, humans called her guest. One evening, Jonah stood in the same doorway where everything had begun. The corridor was no longer empty. People passed by, nodding at him, thanking him quietly. Salira stood beside him, wearing a simple human-style jacket over her inner garments. No robe, no rank symbols. "Your door has become famous," she said. Jonah snorted. "I should start charging rent." She smiled, a small but genuine expression. "Do you regret opening it?" she asked. Jonah thought of the fear, the running, the risk. He thought of a galaxy that now hesitated before stepping on humanity again. "No," he said. "I regret not doing it sooner." Far away in conquered space, leaders argued. Plans were rewritten. Some worlds quietly withdrew support. Others prepared for a future where humans could no longer be ignored or quietly erased. A simple truth spread through diplomatic circles, whispered at first, then spoken aloud. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the most advanced. But if you asked for help and they chose to give it, they would stand between you and the dark, no matter the cost. And if you tried to take someone who had chosen to stay with them, you would learn what that choice meant. Jonah closed his door that night, not to shut the galaxy out, but to rest. For the first time since the war, he slept without dreams. And somewhere beyond the stars, the conquered began to fear a simple human habit they could never fully predict: opening the door.